All right, hello and welcome everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the Zoom F2, but instead of doing an unboxing, we are going to do an actual review of the Zoom F2. TLDR for this entire video, it has good audio, but there are some caveats, and I want to talk about those. So the Zoom F2 field recorder, this is going to be a recorder that you can take with you. It's compact, lightweight. As you can see right now, there's a little red light. That means I am recording. And the cool thing about this, it has an input. So if I stop talking, that light will turn off, and then there's a battery light which turns yellow or red depending on your battery level. Now there's also some output volume, positive and minus things. This allows you to control the output if you're using some type of headphones or something. I don't really use the output very much, if at all. I've used it once, and you could stop and play. So all these buttons right here are used for the output. The input, you have your lavalier microphone that comes with it. It does not come with this fuzzy little thing. It just comes with the little microphone covers. Has 3 of them. It's pretty cool, but essentially this is what you get. You get this base piece, the Zoom F2 field recorder. You get the lavalier microphone with this locking mechanism right here, and you get the actual Zoom F2. Now there's 3 different configurations here. There's an off, an on, and a hold. So off is off. On, it's going to turn on. It takes a few seconds to the battery light will blink, and then it'll go solid. And when it's solid, that means you have input and you can record. Hit that red button to start recording, and then you can move it to the hold button. If I hit this record button while it's on hold, it's just going to flash and tell me, no, you can't. You have to move it back to on before you can turn it off. So that's a nice safety feature so you don't stop recording if you stick it in your pocket or something. Now there's this back section here is where the SD card goes. It can hold up to a 256 gig or 512 SD card. It's micro SD XC, so you can hold a massive SD card. In terms of the physical piece, that's it. It does have a USB-C connection right here. And this is one of those things that's kind of annoying about this particular unit. It's USB-C, but it doesn't have USB-C speeds. It's actually using USB 2.0 fast USB, and the connections are severely limited. So I have a screenshot here of how sad it is. Look at that. So I'm transferring data using the USB Type-C, which I assume would be USB 3 speeds, but it's not. It actually transfers. I captured it when it was going incredibly quick at 2 megabytes per second. Now, when you record for a couple hours, this translates to maybe 20 minutes worth of transfers. So it doesn't generate that much data, but when it does generate data, it's kind of frustrating because you have, it's a USB-C port and it's running USB 2. Come on. I didn't research that when I purchased that, and I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. So that's one knock against it. Let's talk about the 32-bit float audio versus 24-bit integer or 16-bit integer, because we need to know that before we can move to 32-bit float. So 16-bit integer has 96.3 dB. That's a very large dynamic range, but that means we can go down to negative 96 dB over here, right? And if we get up to, so let's say we're recording and we get up to 0 dB, it's just going to cut that audio and then go back down. So that's called clipping. If you hit that 0 dB mark over here, you're going to clip your audio when you're using integer-based audio. So that's 16-bit, 24-bit increases that noise floor to 144 dB. So your noise floor is going to drop, and it's going to make for cleaner audio. When we're talking about the noise floor, it could be ambient noise, but it also could be noise from changing that signal from analog to digital. You can think of this dotted line as like your analog, and then these little orange spikes here as your digital audio. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a space between your analog. Your analog is essentially infinite. It's going to be a wave, and then your digital is going to make steps as it goes up. Bump, 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 bump. And anything in between that step, if you have data in between there, you're going to create some noise when the computer decides, hey, am I going to be at this point, or am I going to be at this point right here? Am I going to be at point 1 or point 2? So there's some noise that's generated there. So we have 16, 24, And then we have 32-bit integer as well. So that goes to 192 dB. That's even more, but we're not recording in integer, we're recording in float. And when we're talking about integer versus float, that's just like a different file type, really. So when we record in float, all of a sudden we go from 144.5 dB with a 24-bit integer to 1,528. Negative 758 dB to positive 770. And this is different from 24-bit, because with 24-bit, you're also going to limit yourself, or when you hit 0 dB, anything that's above this line is going to be completely taken out. It's like you just cannot use that data. One of the cool things about float audio is the fact that you can go above that 0 dB line and maintain the integrity of the file. So you don't have to clip. If you're going into post-production, you could take this entire file, bring it down, let's say negative 6 dB, and you could bring that back under that 0 dB thing. There's pros and cons for float audio, right? Float audio is really good for post-production because you keep all that data and you can manipulate it post-production. But if you're doing something that's live, setting audio is not a bad thing. So if you have 24-bit integer and you need to set audio and you're doing a live performance, you're doing a stream, you're still going to clip because everything that the audience is going to hear is probably going to be 16-bit integer. So you need to pay attention to that. It's not going to be a catch-all, but it's just a different way of manipulating audio. So down here on number 1, I kind of put, hey, here's the path of the data and how it's going to go through the microphone. So we have a lapel microphone, and then it's going to go into a preamp, which is going to boost the audio, and then it's going to go to an audio or an analog to digital converter. Then we can edit the audio, and then we can convert it back from digital to analog. Also, that's called a DAC, D-A-C, and that's where you can listen to it back. So there's lots of conversion happening. The interesting thing about 32-bit float is it boasts such a wide dynamic range that you think, oh, that's so much better. But everything in this line, the microphone, the preamp, the audio converter, whether it's from analog to digital or from digital to analog, those all have dynamic range. You need to think of that entire signal chain before you can talk about audio quality. Some of the pros, you can boost your low levels and they're going to be pretty clean because it has such a wide dynamic range. Your noise floor is going to be fairly low in comparison to other sources of audio. And that's actually really, really cool. And I've experienced that as well. I've had to boost my audio quite a bit, and it seems to be pretty clean, which is great. Number 2, you can be over 0 dB. That's the magic of 32-bit float. That's really awesome. So I want to do a quick little test where we are going to use the Zoom F2 microphone, and then I'm going to use my $7 microphone that I got from my setup here. This is a microphone that I'm using to record. This is a microphone that I'm using to record. This is a microphone that I'm using to record. This is a microphone that I'm using to record. So I switched between 2 different mics, my onboard mic and the Zoom F2. So kind of decide for yourself how it sounds and if you want to get it or not. One of the cons about it is it is pretty expensive. It's I think I bought it for $179. This is not a cheap recorder. And I think it's just because there's a lot of different ways to record audio out there. You can just purchase an accessory for your GoPro or an accessory for your action camera for the audio. I listed some caveats as well. We talked about these already. We have a limited amount of dynamic range, even though we're using 32-bit float audio. And that's because of your preamp, that's because of your microphone, that's because of all the conversion to digital or the conversion to analog that you have to do. Positive and negative about this is there is no gain setting, so if you are using it for a live performance, you have no way to change that audio. You just have to move the microphone to get the sound quality you want. For me, it's a pro. I'm doing most of my stuff post-production, and I just push the button and I don't have to worry about gain. It's amazing. The number 6 there, I'm really disappointed with this one. The fact that the USB-C is only fast USB, the USB 2.0 speeds, that goes extremely slow. It's painfully slow. And I really wish they had just made a USB 3, even if it was a basic USB 3 connection. So that's my review of the Zoom F2 field recorder. It really is a great recorder, and you push the button to record and it records your audio. It's that simple, it's that easy, and it just works. I don't know how it works long term, but I've had it for just a few weeks now, maybe a month, and it's been an excellent little recorder. Now, some people have complained about this little tab back here being a little too flimsy. I haven't noticed that at all. I put in my SD card and I'm never going to touch it again. I just use that USB-C connection to transfer data. It's great. I think the build quality is just fine, and it's just going to go in a pocket or go in my backpack while I'm doing the recording. I would definitely recommend the Zoom F2 for your audio needs if you need something that's simple and easy to use and just works. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.